I'm Patty Lawrence. I own the Gallery of Local Artists in downtown Kingsport, and before I was a gallery owner, first and foremost, I'm an artist, a sculptor, and a painter. The project that I got chosen to create for the Higher Ed Center downtown was my Birds of a Feather Mobile project, and each one of these birds that look like they're made out of glass are actually made out of PET bottles, whose polymers originate right here at Eastman. So these are just regular PET plastic bottles. The green ones you may all recognize as soda bottles, Mountain Dew mostly. Mountain Dew bottles that we got right out of the recycling. So actually some of these birds that will be hanging there may have actually come out of your kitchen and into your recycling bin. And the blue ones, the pink ones, and the brown ones I ordered online. I went online and looked for fancier colors because I couldn't, there's just not enough of these colors, you know, readily available in supermarkets for products. They're mostly used for pharmaceutical type things. So I ordered them, you know, by the caseload, and and I worked from there, and I'll be happy to show you how I make them. I'm going to show you how we get this going. For the green bottles, you could just cut because it's nice and thin, but these are a little thicker, so you have to warm up the plastic. It makes the cutting a lot easier. So I've got my heat gun in there so I can manipulate with both hands. And a heat gun, you could buy it at Walmart or anywhere. This is the 2-setting one. I got it on the lower setting, 750. And you could actually see the plastic starting to melt there. Okay, that's good. And then, now it'll cut like butter. There we go. There were 2 contests open to artists, and I got the award for the Community Art Outreach Program. And I've gotten together with members of the community, and I'm hoping still to get into the school systems to do this project. Cutting and bending the plastic is a little bit dangerous for the little kids, so what we did, we just changed the lesson plan to be bird interpretations. So the kids learned about bird interpretations throughout history, you know, starting with the earliest hieroglyphics, cave paintings, and all the way up through modern times, including Audubon. Even Picasso had, you know, his own interpretation of birds. And the kids really, really, you know, took off on that idea because there was no right or wrong answer. So they really got to get creative and make their own creative bird masterpieces. Then we're going to do the same with the bottom. Soften up that plastic so you can cut it. Now I'm sure there might have been a design I could have come up with that incorporated the top and the bottom, but I tried and I tried, and it always just ended up looking like a misshapen bottle rather than a bird. Sorry, it's not hot enough. Get that right on there. Make sure you wear a glove because it can get kind of hot. You want to keep that heat gun pointed away from you. That's why it was a little too dangerous for the little kids. But the high school kids, I think, will have no problem doing this. All right. Sometimes it's easier just when you get to the end to just snip it off with the scissors. I came up with the idea, actually, the idea started years and years ago. I had a solo exhibit over at the Renaissance Center, and I thought the beautiful atrium space would be beautiful for a bird mobile if the birds were made out of glass. But I'm not a glass worker, so for years and years I've been thinking about it, how could I make that, because they look so beautiful when the light is shining through them. And then when this contest came up, I used the same idea, and I thought, well, Kingsport is a supposed bird sanctuary, so I got used the birds' ideas and the bottles that originate at Eastman and combined that idea to hang at the Higher Ed Center. So the next step is to create a point, which will also, it'll serve as the beak and will also serve as the head and neck. Get your handy dandy needle nose pliers. Put that on, and we could start the bending process. Don't try to hold this with your fingers right in the heat because you will get a very nasty burn. As it heats, you'll start seeing it. There it goes. All right. I'm going to hold this head out of the way and try and mold it into the bird shape. That looks good. And every single one didn't come out looking like a bird. I made a few that actually ended up looking like feet, so I had to throw them away. Once you bend it, it's kind of hard to unbend it into a better shape. It's easier just to throw it away and start over if it doesn't work. That one's okay. I want to get rid of that little flap there. There we go. Alright. Now we do the same. So you can see that serves as like a silhouette of a head and a beak. And we want to get the rest of it. So we warm up that plastic and start molding it, spinning, turning. And it will pretty much do whatever you want it to do within reason. If you let it sit in one spot in front of the heat too much, it'll turn opaque, it'll start to burn. And we don't want that. That's ugly. Okay, hopefully that's good. Take it out of the heat and it'll, sometimes you can hold it out of the heat and it'll set in that shape. There you go. So I have the basic silhouette of my bird. So far I've created 150 birds, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be enough to fill the space, which is in the Higher Education Center. There's a beautiful, beautiful stairwell above which is a skylight that's 75 feet long and about 12 feet wide. So the bird portion of the mobile is done. What's currently being worked on is the metal grid. We're using Appalachian Ironworks is designing a grid that each one of these birds will be hanging from. So as you look up, the grid will go into the background, and the birds will look like they're flying there under the skylight with the light shining through them and all. For the wings, we do the same thing. We start with a fresh bottle. Heat up the top and the bottom and cut those off. Now, we cut open the cylinder. Okay. And with this, we're going to do it this way. You would think that this is long enough to be one wing, but actually it's not. It's a little short. A wing this short would never hold up a bird this fat. So, believe it or not, it's longer this way, the circumference. So, we're going to cut this in half so we can get 2 wings out of that. Now, how do we get rid of this curly shape? We go back to our handy heat gun. Same thing, straighten that out. Woo! Went a little too far there. That's all right. Okay, turn that off. Flat. It's a race against time. Each one of these birds, I'm actually working very, very quickly today, so as not to bore you to death, but Each one of these birds took me about an hour a piece to do. You'll see I have to attach these on with screws and everything, but I'm working really, really fast right now because I've had to make so many of them. I learned to make it pretty fast, but I didn't want to go so fast that I would be messing too many up. Actually, there were days I would come in intending to make several birds, and the faster I tried to work, the more I'd had to throw away. So the old saying, haste makes waste, is definitely true in matters of art. So I cut my wing, my basic wing shape. Now you would think you could just make two the same. That was the mistake I made in the beginning. But they're not exactly the same. It has to be the flip image of it. Otherwise you'll have two left wings or two right wings, and no bird can fly with two left wings or two right wings. So I'm going to say that one is probably going to be the right wing. So this one is going to be the left wing, and see which way it's going to look the best. I'm going to say like that. And I'm so scatterbrained, sometimes I thought I had it all worked out, and I had the right and the left, and then I get to put it back together, and then there are two left wings or two right wings. And I thought I was so smart, and I wasn't. Now the reason I know exactly where to cut is because I've done this 150 times. No, I've actually done it 300 times because I've made two wings for each bird. So I know how to make the feather shapes and where they need to go without having to draw them out. But most artists don't draw things out. They just do it. Now, we're going to get a little flap on here so we'll be able to attach it. Since it's going that way, anyway, wait. Let me figure this out. All right. We get that right up there. I'm bending it with my pliers, and you can get a nice crease in the plastic. Now, I looked into finding adhesives that could glue this stuff together. There is one on the market that was developed by Eastman, actually, and I talked to an old engineer who used to work there, and he had the name of it. It was some big, complicated, blah, blah name. And I went and looked for it, and sure enough, he said they sold it to Loctite. So I looked online at Loctite, and I found the adhesive, and it worked for some of them, but it wasn't permanent. So after a couple weeks, the wings were all falling off. So I said I could not have that. So I decided to use my handy dandy drill and screws. Yes, I did just drill right into my work table. Don't do that at home. There, you're going to kind of drill your hole. Get your screw. Screw. Am I doing it backwards again? I am. I almost put the wing on backwards. Please go in. The whole world is watching. Okay. Okay. Wing one. And line that up kind of where you want it. Make a mental note. Now, for the tail, the first few I made a regular bird shape, fan looking tail, and it just didn't seem to go with the design of the bird. So I ended up coming up with a very stylized version made of very elongated, acute triangles. So I use a series of 3 or 4 or 5 of these to create the tail. So we just put them like that. I think that makes a really spiffy tail. Drill your hole through all three. Get your screw and get that on there. Now if you decide you want to make something out of these PET bottles, just remember safety first. Always use your gloves and your pliers, and you can come up with your own shape, your own design. Doesn't have to be a bird. You can make anything you want. I saw a lady online who was making jellyfish type things out of the bottles, which looked very cool because she would use this part and then have the tendrils hanging down, and she bent the tendrils. It really looked great. Anyhow, so we've got our bird. Now we have to put a hanging device, which is just going to be our little screw eye. But you want to get it in a spot where he's balanced. So I kind of do like that. And it's right about there. Voila, a bird.